This is CBC Vancouver News.
You can already see this one here is quite root-bound and has outgrown its space.
Vancouver wants to add 165,000 trees across the city over the next 25 years. Why some experts say the city could face challenges reaching that target. Also,
now it's going to be extended to $40 a square foot if we continue to stay.
Metro Vancouver's commercial rent crisis, how rent hikes are putting pressure on nonprofit thrift stores, forcing some to close their doors for good. And
really hopeful that Canada will reconsider its position.
Communities across Canada gather for the annual Walk with Israel event amid rising anti-Semitism. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. Vancouver is trying to add more trees while also adding more homes. A tricky balance in an already dense urban environment with limited green space. Leanne Yu has more on the city's ambitious targets and the potential challenges.
Oh yeah, this next block's a good one.
Between the mountains and the sea, a hallmark of Vancouver is its trees. And according to its urban forest strategy update for 2025, the city is aiming to increase its tree canopy from 25 to 30% by 2050. That's about 165,000 trees. The aim, to create shady green streets like these ones in the West End.
There's a calming effect that trees have on humans, just lowering blood pressure and lowering stress levels, cortisol levels that we often take for granted.
Trees also purify air, encourage biodiversity, absorb and filter rainwater, and decrease housing cooling costs by providing natural temperature control.
Can you imagine the difference if the trees weren't here?
In Strathcona, the city's most tree-deficient neighborhood, one doesn't have to imagine. According to the staff report, higher-income neighborhoods like Shaughnessy have more than 30% canopy cover, while lower-income Strathcona has less than 10%. In so-called urban heat islands with limited shade, trees can be life-saving.
Oh, especially during a heat dome for our unhoused population. In some of these downtown areas, they got nowhere to hide.
But one city staffer says the challenges to planting new trees in areas like the downtown east side is the cost.
Creating a new tree pit, this can cost, in some cases, upwards of $15,000 to $20,000.
Obviously, you've got the sidewalk here, so it would be quite an ordeal to take back the pavement panels and then create something that a tree could live in here.
Devine says trees already in the area are susceptible to damage from building fires or contamination due to human waste, but mostly they don't get enough water.
At the moment, this is a fairly closed-off surface for water permutation.
This urban forestry expert says greening up Strathcona is possible if the city can retrofit existing streets.
To take back some of that hard space, take back some of the parking, take up some of the road space, and so there's space for trees.
And to reach the city's goal of 30%, he suggests educating homeowners and housing developers.
And a really big piece of the puzzle is the private land.
He says the city could help increase the tree canopy by requiring space for trees in new development proposals, and is encouraging people to plant trees in their yards. Leanne Yu, CBC News, Vancouver.
A beloved Burnaby thrift store is getting set to close up shop following a major rent hike. It joins a long list of nonprofits struggling to stay afloat amid Metro Vancouver's real estate crisis. Sohrab Sandhu reports.
For a decade, Pace's family thrift store in Burnaby has operated out of this location.
It's been a very, very successful endeavor. We've been able to manage to raise over $1 million for the kids in this community.
But after all these years, the business is getting ready to close its doors for good.
Our rent was $10 a square foot. It then went to $30 a square foot. And now it's going to be extended to $40 a square foot if we continue to stay. And our business is not viable.
The store is run by 60 volunteers, and most of the proceeds go back into the community. Woodruff says her organization has tried looking for another location, but so far this search has not been successful.
The last 18 months, we've been looking at properties all across Burnaby and New Westminster. The retail space is very, very tight.
And it's not the only not-for-profit struggling to find a suitable location. On the other side of the Fraser River, Siva Thrift Store saw their previous rent more than double, forcing them to move in April. But finding a new space was not easy.
Every place we were getting was more industrial. So everything we came across, we would have to do a big renovation.
Anija says with high rent costs, their ability to give back to the community has reduced significantly.
Since we got the rent increase, we haven't been able to donate.
According to StatScan, the average retail rent in Canada has increased by 6.5% since 2019. Last year, a new Westminster councillor proposed special economic zones to help small businesses amid rapid development, increasing land values, and rising commercial rents. But one expert says commercial rent control is not a solution. The focus should be increasing the real estate supply.
We need to make it easy and fast and safe to invest in commercial or residential real estate so that people do that in large numbers. And then we build a lot more than we currently have built.
Pavlov says there has been a chronic shortage of commercial real estate in BC, similar to the residential market. He says what happens to commercial rents will depend on the local economy. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
Police in Port Moody say they arrested a naked man at a popular park after he allegedly assaulted a stranger and armed himself with a knife at a restaurant.
We received multiple 911 calls at Rocky Point Park for a report of a naked man who had allegedly assaulted another man in the park. From there, it was reported that he ran into a nearby restaurant, and inside the restaurant he reportedly grabbed some sort of knife that he found and armed himself with it and was brandishing it in a way that obviously caused some concern for people's safety.
Police say no one sustained any serious injuries. The 48-year-old man who is known to police has been charged with assault, possessing a weapon for a dangerous purpose, and committing an indecent act in a public place. Investigators are still determining the man's motivation, adding that alcohol and mental health challenges may have played a role. A weekend of Israeli attacks have killed dozens, including 9 children from the same family, according to Gaza health officials. Israel's government says its target is Hamas, furiously rejecting a call from Canada and other allies to stop its offensive. But in Jerusalem, Tom Perry shows us some want it to end.
They gather every week, the families of Israeli hostages and their supporters, demanding an end to the war in Gaza and a return of their loved ones. This week, some welcoming a message from Israel's allies.
It's a good step for ending the war.
Yehuda Cohen's son Nimrod was taken hostage on October 7th and remains in Gaza, one of 59 Israelis, living or dead, still held by Hamas. Cohen's hope that a joint declaration by Canada, the UK, and France is a sign countries are prepared to apply pressure on Israel's government.
The Western world pressing our government to go for a ceasefire, anything goes.
Dalia Kusnir's brother-in-law, Eitan Horn, is still being held hostage. To her, Canada and its partners have their priorities all wrong.
It's not understanding that when they condemning Israel, they're strengthening Hamas.
The Israeli government has faced months of domestic pressure to reach a permanent ceasefire, with critics of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu staging their own regular demonstrations. Some protesters doubtful any statement will stop the fighting.
I think it's rather performative. You know, it's just a way to make people in those countries think that the governments of those countries really care.
In Gaza, Israeli strikes continue. On Friday, an attack in Han Yunis killed 9 siblings, their mother a physician at a local hospital. The house was crushed like a can of sardines, says Ali Al-Najjar, the children's uncle. We looked through the rubble and called out names, but no one answered. The Israeli military says it's reviewing the strike in Han Yunis, but it's incidents like this that caused Canada, the UK, and France to issue their warning to the Israelis. The Israeli government now has a warning of its own, cautioning its citizens in Canada about what it calls an increased threat of terrorism against Israelis and Jews. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
On the same day Israel issued that warning, tens of thousands of Canadian Jews and supporters marched in the annual Walk with Israel event, including a survivor of the Hamas-led attack of October 7th, 2023.
Imagine when you run with your friends and you see people fall, people dying, people scream for help, and you can't help them.
Police say record-breaking numbers came out to the event in Toronto, roughly 56,000. A heavy police presence kept a limited number of counter-protesters at bay. A smaller event also took place in Vancouver. The Ancient Forest Provincial Park, a rare inland temperate rainforest east of Prince George, is getting a new interpretive centre led by the local First Nation. As Hannah Peterson reports, the 4,000-square-foot facility will provide visitors from around the world with a look at the unique ecosystem and will serve as a platform for Indigenous storytelling.
Nestled near the Rocky Mountains about an hour's drive east of Prince George, massive cedars mark one of the world's few inland temperate rainforests. And now the Lheidli First Nation has broken ground on a new interpretive centre in the Ancient Forest Provincial Park. Kim Gucci is a musician, artist, and elder with the nation.
I think the Ancient Forest has become a huge part of my identity, as a Lheidli member especially, and it has become a place that I go to in my mind and in my spirit when I need that calming, soothing, grounding energy. And because it's so far away, it's hard to get here like when you need it the most.
Just steps away from 2,000-year-old cedars high enough to block the sun, the 4,000-square-foot center will be an entry point to a boardwalk trail where visitors can explore a rich biodiversity of plants and a cascading waterfall. The project has been in the works since 2019, but faced delays because of COVID-19 and the death of both a project manager and project coordinator to cancer.
There's all sorts of different dynamics that have kind of put a halt to the project, but we're here, and here it begins.
Noel Sr. is a member of the Caledonia Ramblers Hiking Club. He's worked to protect and improve the ancient forest since 2005, helping build the universal boardwalk that makes the park accessible to all. He hopes the new center will highlight the importance of the forest to the region and to the world.
It's just an educational movement, really, because there's more to the area than just trees. It's an area where there's nothing really like this area.
Gucci says once complete, the project will highlight not just the unique ecosystem, but the culture of her nation.
It'll provide warmth, it'll provide shelter, it'll provide storytelling, it'll provide all of these wonderful things that already exist, but now we can actually put it under one roof.
The park will remain open during construction, with the center expected to open in 2027. Hannah Peterson, CBC News, Prince George.
A family of owls that has made its home in a Westside Vancouver park is lighting up social media and drawing big crowds. As Karen Larson reports, the newcomers are taking their newfound celebrity in stride.
They flock to Douglas Park by the dozens, carrying binoculars, cell phones, cameras with giant telephoto lenses.
Nikon Z8 with a 600mm lens.
People who give a hoot about, well, creatures that hoot. A family of barred owls who have taken up residence in a park tree.
It's all over social media right now. Yeah. So I love birds. I have birds.
Some birders I knew heard about it, and everybody kind of passes the word.
It's a big delight for me. I'm a birder, so you don't see owls in the city too often.
Depending on who you talk to, owls in this family consist of a mom, a dad, and 2, possibly 3 fledglings. On our trip to Douglas Park, the little ones were nowhere to be seen, but an onlooker was happy to share a photo of one captured earlier. According to locals, the owl prowl crowd has been well behaved, and the feathered celebrities mildly amused by all the attention.
It's not really bothering the owl. If they were really bothered by it, they wouldn't be nesting here.
It makes it fun to come out in the day and have a quick look.
Yeah, it's better than the rats we get around here and the coyotes. You know, for once we have like real wildlife.
As a precaution, the city has erected a fence and signs around the owl tree, asking people to be quiet and respectful, to get their photo, and then move on.
There's 4 owls out in the open. It's just gorgeous.
Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Just north of Nanaimo, Qualicum Beach is the last municipality on Vancouver Island with a town crier. But the search is on for a new one as their current crier hung up his bell after Sunday's Family Day parade. Claire Palmer has more.
Leonard Mustard has been at this for over a quarter century. Today, he leads the Qualicum Beach Family Day Parade for the final time.
I'll probably start crying because it is very, very emotional for me. It's not easy to give this up.
The role of a town crier dates back to 17th century England, when the crier was the official disseminator of news for the crown. These days, the role is largely ceremonial and mainly involves leading parades and ringing his bell to start special events.
But the thing I love about this is that it's always a happy occasion. I always bring pleasure. I make people smile, make people laugh. I entertain them. That's part of my theatre background. I love entertaining people. And what better way?
Qualicum's mayor says the parade is a fitting send-off for more than a quarter century of volunteer work.
We will miss him. And I hope during the parade today, which is a really nice way for us to say thank you, Len, he can go right through the downtown core and tell people and wave at people, and hopefully they wave back and blow kisses at him because he is a beloved person.
I think he kind of represents our small little town.
I think his longevity of doing the job for that long. I think that when communities see that people are engaged for a long time, it just speaks to everybody.
As for what's next for Mustard, he has something more solitary in mind.
My promise to myself is that I will go back to sailing. I've sailed here for 50 years. So I bought a smaller boat a few months ago, and I've been gently working on it as part of my promise to myself.
Qualicum Beach says they have someone else lined up to potentially take over, so the voice of town crier will echo in the city for years to come. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Qualicum Beach.
Still ahead, it's been 5 years since George Floyd was murdered by a police officer, and some say change seems to be slipping away. That's next. Stay with us. Today marks 5 years since the death of George Floyd, killed by a police officer arresting him. Weeks of protest, anger, and civil unrest followed. Sarah Levitt now on how Floyd's death is being remembered and what's happened since.
Every other day, Maestro King is here cleaning up, making sure the memorial to his friend George Floyd is well kept.
I just know we used to chat for hours. He was, I don't got much family, so he was somebody to talk to.
It was at this corner 5 years ago, now called George Floyd Square. Floyd was murdered by a police officer. For 9.5 minutes, Officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck. A bystander video showing his final moments saying, "I can't breathe," sparked a racial reckoning in Minneapolis and across the U.S.
It wasn't just a personal loss that we would be dealing with. As we know, George's death became the catalyst of this huge movement across the globe.
Find the defendant guilty.
In 2021, Chauvin was found guilty for multiple charges, including unintentional second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. Police reforms and change were promised, but many say that hasn't happened.
To black people, this is just the same old hundreds of years of history repeating itself, and if we don't do something different, we'll just continue to repeat these cycles again and again and again.
According to an analysis by the New York Times, the number of people killed by police has risen every year since Floyd's death, though the number of those killed who were unarmed has decreased. And this week, another blow. The Trump administration moved to roll back federal reform efforts to investigate or oversee local police departments. In Floyd's hometown of Houston, family visited his burial site, dismayed by the timing of the announcement.
To wait to the anniversary and announce this, knowing this family was going to be brought back to the brokenheartedness of what happened, shows the disregard and insensitivity of this administration.
That anger and that sadness still very much palpable here in Minneapolis as well. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Minneapolis.
Here we have a live shot of Science World tonight on a clear night before the rain arrives. I'll have your full forecast next. We have some breaking news. Abbotsford police say a youth has died following a stabbing at Larch Park earlier this evening. 2 youth suspects have been arrested. Larch Park is currently closed to the public and a significant police presence remains in the area. Police say the stabbing appears to be targeted. IHIT will now be taking over the case. Anyone who was around Larch Park between 6:30 and 8 p.m. or may have dash cam footage from the area is being asked to contact police. All right, let's take a look now at our forecast for the week ahead, beginning with a quick look at the current temperatures around the province. A little bit of rain overnight for most of the province. Fort St. John is going to see about a low of 10 overnight, and in Kelowna, a risk of thunderstorms and a low of 14 overnight. On the island, pretty heavy rain in Victoria with a low of 11 and a little bit more light rain in Tofino overnight. Heading into tomorrow, risk of thunderstorms in Dease Lake with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 12. Over in Williams Lake, 19 is your expected high for tomorrow. Much warmer in Kamloops with an expected high of 26 degrees for tomorrow. And Victoria, a mix of sun and clouds and rain with a high of 18. Metro Vancouver is going to see some rain tomorrow, but that should clear up by the afternoon. It's going to be a mix of sun and clouds for Tuesday with a high of 18 and much warmer on Wednesday with temperatures getting up to about 25. That is your late news for Sunday, May 25th. Thank you so much for joining. To keep up to date with all the latest news, head to our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night.